Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamti Ashtuprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevi Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text number 26 onwards. So Krishna is further explaining to Arjuna, Anye tvevam ajananta shrutvanyebhya upasate te api chati tarantyeva mrityum shruti parayana. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So, there are those. So, previous verse, Krishna was saying, some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So, Dhyana Yogi, Jnana Yogi, and Karma Yogi. But then there are others who just hear about Krishna or about the super soul and they begin to worship because of their tendency to hear. So this is about bhakti yogis. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of bhakti. This verse is particularly applicable to modern society because in modern society there is practically no education in spiritual matters. Some of the people may appear to be atheistic or agnostic or philosophical, but actually there is no knowledge of philosophy. As for the common man, if he is a good soul, then there is a chance for advancement by hearing. The hearing process is very important. Lord Chaitanya, who preached Krishna consciousness in the modern world, gave great stress to hearing because if the common man simply hears from authoritative sources, he can make progress, especially according to Lord Chaitanya. If he hears a transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So here, Prabhupada is saying this, in this day and age, this hearing is the right process. A hearing also from the right person, not just from anybody. And once we hear, then the process actually begins. The bhakti surrender can begin. So that's what Prabhupada says, the common man simply hears from authoritative sources. But that's the issue. How do we know who's authoritative source? How do we know who should we hear from? There are so many so-called spiritual gurus around. So the point is, so whatever desire one has, Krishna sitting as Paramatma in his heart, will take him to that person only, take him to that kind of guru only. So it depends on our desire. Of course, that desire depends on our sanskaras, on our karmas, on our association, so many things, on our agyat sukriti, how much sukriti one has. So that's why, so after wandering throughout the world, universe so many times, it's very rare that one comes in contact with a devotee who teaches him how to make progress on this path. It's very rare actually. It is stated that all men should take advantage of hearing from realized souls and gradually become able to understand everything. The worship of the Supreme Lord will then undoubtedly take place. Lord Chaitanya has said that in this age, no one needs to change his position, but one should give up the endeavor to understand the absolute truth by speculative reasoning. One should learn to become the servant of those who are in knowledge of the Supreme Lord. If one is fortunate enough to take shelter of a pure devotee, hear from him about self-realization, follow in his footsteps, one will be gradually elevated to the position of a pure devotee. In this verse particularly, the process of hearing is strongly recommended, and this is very appropriate. Although the common man is often not as capable as so-called philosophers, faithful hearing from an authoritative person will help one transcend the material existence and go back to Godhead. So hearing, like Arjun also heard properly from Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj heard from Shukdev Goswami. So we also, if we hear from Srila Prabhupada properly, hearing also means then acting on it, or uh, using that knowledge to purify ourselves, to make progress. That is the real way of hearing. It's not just like in ISKCON we say, na, इस कान से गया और उस कान से बाहर निकल गया. That's why its name is ISKCON. So that is not the proper way of hearing. So real way of hearing is दोनों कान से, इस कान and इस कान से सुन के it should go inside the heart. And we should be able to uh, work on it. So many devotees, because they heard properly from Prabhupada, Prabhupada followers, and they have made progress, amazing progress they have made. Like for Prabhupada also, when he was doing Brajmandal Parikrama with his Guru Maharaj, and at Sheshashai, there is a place called Sheshashai, where Krishna is in the form of Lord Vishnu is lying down on the Sheshnag. And there's a pastime of Krishna with the gopis. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was going to give lecture in the evening, and so many of his sannyasi disciples, instead of hearing Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, they went to take darshan of different temples. But Prabhupada didn't go. Prabhupada just sat there and listened. Although Prabhupada later on said that I could hardly understand what my Guru Maharaj was speaking. Not the language problem, but maybe it was Prabhupada's humility. But he said, I didn't understand all the philosophy. But I sat there listening. So his Guru Maharaj, later on, when Prabhupada was recommended for initiation, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj commented that I have noticed him. He likes to hear. And because he heard, he is hearing properly, he will preach very nicely. So that was one of the qualities of Prabhupada that made him very dear to his spiritual master. So this hearing is very, very, very important. And that too, like Prabhupada saying, faithful hearing from an authoritative person. Not hearing in the mood to challenge somebody, or hearing just as um, it's like a mechanical hearing. There are different devotees also which are mentioned in hearing. Like one is like a fish, one is like a chatak bird. They're different. I'll try to find out that categorization. Maybe tomorrow, if I remember. Then we can discuss those. There are four categories. Four like animals or birds are mentioned, and they also hear, but we have to see the difference, and we have to see where do we fit in. So this hearing is very, very important to make progress. Text 27. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam sthavar jangamam kshetragya sanyoga tad vidhi bharat rishad. O chief of the Bharats, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. So this is like Sankhya Yoga. Basically, it comes down to what? Whatever we see in the whole existence, whether sthavar or jangam, or I mean, moving and non-moving, is basically what? Combination of field of activities and the knower of the field. Knower of the field is soul and the super soul, and field of activities is the body. That's all. This is all the whole material world is made up of. Both material nature and the living entity, which were existing before the creation of the cosmos, are explained in this verse. Whatever is created is but a combination of the living entity and the material nature. There are many manifestations like trees, mountains, and hills, which are not moving, and there are many existences which are moving. And all of them are but combinations of material nature and spiritual nature, the living entity. So see, Prabhupada is saying like trees, mountains, and hills. So mountains and hills, they also have a soul. Not only trees, mountains and hills are also, they have the living entity, the soul. In fact, one place, Prabhupada also mentioned even the clouds, they have souls. They have the body and the soul is there. Without the touch of the spiritual nature, the living entity, nothing can grow. The relationship between material nature and spiritual nature is eternally going on, and this combination is affected by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is a controller of both the superior and inferior natures. The material nature is created by him, and the superior nature is placed in this material nature. And thus, all these activities and manifestations take place. So, all the activities in the material world take place because of the superior nature or spiritual nature or soul and supersoul is there inside this material body. But it's just a combination of these two. That's it. There's nothing else. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashyantam yah pashyati sapashyati. One who sees a super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed actually sees. So the soul and the super soul cannot be destroyed. That's Krishna spoke about it in second chapter. So that is a real way of seeing. But we only see the body. We don't see, we don't even understand the position of the soul. It is difficult. It's not easy. Because we all ourselves are in this bodily concept of life and we see everything in terms of body. And everybody acts on the bodily level. Anyone who by good association can see three things combined together, the body, the proprietor of the body or individual soul, and the friend of the individual soul, is actually in knowledge. Unless one has association of a real knower of spiritual subjects, one cannot see these three things. Those who do not have such association are ignorant. They simply see the body and they think that when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually, it is not so. After the destruction of the body, both the soul and the super soul exist, and they go on eternally in many various moving and non-moving forms. The Sanskrit word Parameshwara is sometimes translated as the individual soul because soul is the master of the body, and after the destruction of the body, he transfers to another form. In that way, he is master. But there are others who interpret this Parameshwara to be the super soul. In either case, both the super soul and the individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One who can see in this way actually can see what is happening. So this generally we come to this point when we see somebody dies in our family. And hopefully, by Prabhupada's mercy, by the knowledge that he has given, by the knowledge that we have acquired from him, we can, if not later, sooner, we can come to the point of understanding. Oh, this is only body, and the soul is gone. But throughout our life, our relationship, our dealings with that person is on the basis of the body. That's what has to change. That's why Prabhupada, even till the last moment, he kept on saying, "You're not this body." His all his lectures were basically to stress on this point: you're not this body, you're a spirit soul. Because it's so difficult to ingrain that point in our thick skulls. It's not easy. Text of the Ram. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavasthitam ishvaram nahinasyaatmanatmanam tato yati param gatim. One who sees a super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. The living entity, by accepting his material existence, has become situated differently than in his spiritual existence. But if one understands the Supreme is situated in his Paramatma manifestation everywhere, that is, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living thing, he does not degrade himself by a destructive mentality, and he therefore gradually advances to the spiritual world. The mind is generally addicted to sense gratifying processes, but when the mind turns to the Supersoul, one becomes advanced in spiritual understanding. So, in every living entity, if we can see that there is a super soul in every body, along with the soul, there is a super soul who's guiding that soul to act, then there will not be any problems in the world, actually. We all act differently. We all fight because we think this person is my enemy. But if we understand that the super soul is sitting in that person's heart and guiding that soul to give me the reaction of my karma, and the super soul in my heart is also attracting that reaction, then where's the point in any fight? There won't be any fight, any conflicts, any chaos. But we don't understand this. If we understand, just like I think in India, it's a dengue season, either started or it will start very soon. So the super soul sitting in that mosquito's body, along with that soul in the mosquito body, is guiding that soul to use this mosquito body to bite one particular human being and to give him dengue fever. Why? To give him the reaction of his own karma. Because not everybody gets dengue fever. Everybody lives in the same area and everybody gets bitten by the mosquito, or maybe some people don't. But like in a dengue season, not everybody gets dengue. Why few people only? Because the super soul is sitting in this mosquito's body and he is guiding this mosquito to go and bite the other person. So nothing can happen without the sanction of the super soul. And super soul is expansion of Krishna. So that's why Krishna is cause of all causes. That's why he's called Parameshwara. Ishvara Paramaha Krishna. But it's so hard to understand. somebody does something wrong to me or something good to me, it's hard to come to the conclusion that it's the super soul guiding him. That's all. And those who are devotees of Krishna, they understand super soul is super soul is expansion of Krishna, and Krishna is my friend. I love Krishna. So the super soul in somebody's heart, who's Krishna himself, will not do anything to harm me actually. It will be only for my benefit, whatever he is doing through that soul. But not everybody and everybody can come to this level of understanding. That's why reading of Bhagavad Gita and reading of Prabhupada's books is very, very important. Text 30. Prakriti च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानं akartaram sapashyati. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. This body is made by material nature under the direction of the super soul, and whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. Whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or distress, one is forced to do so because of the bodily constitution. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill one's to fulfill desires, one is given the body, with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of this living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. So here Krishna is saying it's not even the self who does, but actually it's the self. He has done some activities, some desires, some actions in the previous life, and because of which he is awarded this body in this life. And this body which he got is given to fulfill one's desires. And that's why, because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. So basically, a soul desires, man proposes, God disposes, and then the three modes of material nature take over, and they make the soul, through the body, do some activity. Soul is helpless afterwards, once it desires. But then soul is held accountable for the activity because it was his desire. The body on its own cannot act without the soul being there. And the soul does the activity according to his desire, which is sanctioned by Krishna or Paramatma himself. Text 31. Yada bhuta prithag bhavam ekastham anupashyati tat eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tata. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. When one can see that the various bodies of living entities arise due to different desires of the individual soul and do not actually belong to the soul itself, one actually sees. In the material conception of life, we find someone a demigod, someone a human being, a cat, a dog, etc. This is material vision, not actual vision. This material differentiation is due to a material conception of life. After the destruction of the material body, the spirit soul is one. The spirit soul, due to contact with material nature, gets different types of bodies. When one can see this, he attains spiritual vision thus being freed from differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc. One becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. How he then sees things will be explained in the next verse. So this is level of Brahman conception, on Brahman level when he quits differentiating on the terms of body. Body is just an instrument. Like Prabhupada says, in material conception of life, we find someone a demigod, someone a human being, a dog, a cat, etc. This is material vision, not actual vision. But since the soul has been in this body concept of life for millions and millions of lifetimes, we only see on the basis of body. And we also act on the bodily basis. Right now, see all this election hysteria in India going on. Oh, give vote to this, don't give vote to that. Okay, we hope that if Modi ji wins, it will help in spreading Hindu Dharma or Krishna consciousness more. But this all election, this all fighting, this all like here we do different kinds of businesses or dealings with different clients or the owners or the architects. And sometimes I do get into what is all this about? What is this all about? Basically, everybody is trying to control or they're trying to make some money out of the dealings or transactions, trying to put down others by marketing is what? We put down somebody else so that people buy our stuff. That's all. So basically, it's to give pleasure or comfort to the body and pleasure or satisfaction to the mind. Ultimately, it boils down to this only. And for that, so many people, everybody is running around like crazy, as if we don't run around, the world will come to an end. What will happen then? If I don't get this business, this lead, this prospect, what will happen then? This is all the whole material world is all about. Political parties are fighting with each other. Everybody, all the leaders are fighting. Oh, I want the post, I want the control, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to make money, I want to serve India like this, I want to do. What is this all about? Thinking that this body is better than other body. That's it. It's not. Text 32. Anaditva nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyaya sharirastho api kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. A living entity appears to be born because of the birth of the material body, but actually the living entity is eternal. He is not born, and in spite of his being situated in a material body, he is transcendental and eternal. Thus he cannot be destroyed. By nature, he is full of bliss. He does not engage himself in any material activity. Therefore, the activities performed due to his contact with material bodies do not entangle him. But somebody will say that when he gets entangled, that's why he takes the next and next and next birth. Well, what Krishna is saying is only the body changes, soul doesn't change at all. Soul remains the same. The consciousness of the soul changes or gets covered over by more and more acting his acting in the material world. His consciousness gets covered. But the soul does not become a dog or a hog or a Muslim or Hindu. Soul does not become that. Soul is full of bliss, and knowledge, but its consciousness gets covered over. And this consciousness is what we have to purify. Text 33. Yatha sarvagatam sokshmyadakasham na upalipyate sarvatrāvasthito deho tathatma na upalipyate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul, situated in Brahman vision, does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. The air enters into water, mud, stool, and whatever else is there. Still, it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, is aloof from them due to his subtle nature. Therefore, it's impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with this body and how he is out of it after the destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this. So the example is given, the living entity, which is spiritual, and the body, which is material. The combination or the connection between the two is like mixing oil and water. Oil never mixes with water. But because of our bodily, material, conditioned consciousness, this relationship between the soul and the material body has become like if somebody has put ink in water. You cannot separate the two. But actually, it's not like that. Actually, it's like oil and water. They will never mix. But the consciousness, when it gets covered over, then the whole problem starts. So we have to, all these verses are very important, very nice instructions given by Krishna and explained very perfectly by Srila Prabhupada. But we have to start implementing these instructions as well. Like when we deal with others means everybody, even in the household, or when we act, we have to see, am I acting on the bodily level or on the soul level? Am I dealing with the other person on bodily level or on the level of soul? We have to be able to see that. And then slowly our dealings will change. Text 34. Sometimes people can say, oh, even if I deal with him on the soul level, but his dealing with me is on the bodily level. What to do then? But we still remain on the level of soul. Because we have to worry about our progress. And then the other person, when he sees our behavior, our outlook, then he will also change. Just like, I give an example, Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, he was a scholar, he was PhD from America, and at that time, being a African American in 60s, going to Princeton or Stanford, like Ivy League University, and getting PhD there by him, it was a big deal. Not too many African American students could do that. And then somehow he came in contact with devotees and he joined New York Temple. And at that time, There were hardly any African American devotees. They were mostly whites in America. And they would, as Bhakti Tirth Maharaj said later, that they would discriminate against him. Of course, in 60s, the mood was like that. So once he came to Prabhupada, and he complained to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, these devotees discriminate against me on the basis of my being a black body. And Prabhupada, instead of, in normal case, in our case, we would have said, oh, these guys are rascals, you don't feel bad and this and that. He could have said that, but he didn't. He said, because you think you are black, you are this body, that's why they treat you like that. So it is your fault. So that was moving instructions for him. And he said in a lecture then, he said, I understood where the problem was. Because I think I'm this body, I think I'm black. That's why even if they say something, I take it like that. So we have to change our consciousness. We have to change our viewpoint. We have to change our thinking. We cannot change anybody else's. We have to improve ourselves. Ultimately, soul is not this body, whether black or white or brown or yellow, anything like that. Soul is none of these. Text 34. यथा प्रकाश्यति एकः कृत्स्नं लोकमिमं रविः क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृत्स्नं प्रकाशयति भारत. O son of Bharat, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. There are various theories regarding consciousness. Here in Bhagavad Gita, the example of the sun and the sunshine is given. As the sun is situated in one place but is illuminating the whole universe, so a small particle of spirit soul, although situated in the heart of this body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. Thus, consciousness is a proof of the presence of the soul, as sunlight or sunshine is a proof of the presence of the sun. When the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body. And as soon as the soul has passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man. Therefore, consciousness is not a product of the combinations of matter. It's a symptom of the living entity. The consciousness of the living entity, although qualitatively one with the supreme consciousness, is not supreme. Because the consciousness of one particular body does not share that of another body. But the super soul, which is situated in all bodies as a friend of the individual soul, is conscious of all bodies. That's the difference between supreme consciousness and the individual consciousness. So now Krishna is coming towards the end of this chapter. He is saying, so the consciousness is the one that is pervading in the whole body, and that is the symptom of the soul. But the individual soul is conscious of only one particular body, but the super soul is conscious of all bodies. Kshetra kshetragyorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. The purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body, the owner of the body, and the super soul. So body, jiva, or the soul, and the super soul. Three things one has to know. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 8 through 12. Then one can go on to the supreme destination. A faithful person should at first have some good association to hear of God and thus gradually become enlightened. So So just like Rupa Goswami has said that it all starts with Shraddha. Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha. Then Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, then one hears from the devotee. If one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit. And that becomes a stepping stone for further spiritual realization. A spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches a student to get free from the material concept of life. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from materialistic considerations. So, after understanding whole Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna in the 18th chapter, he'll ask Arjuna, if you have any doubts, if you have anything you haven't understood, you can ask me again, no problem. And Arjuna understood the whole Bhagavad Gita, realized the whole knowledge. After that, he also fought the war and he killed his enemies. But his consciousness was different. So that is important. Activities have to be done, but consciousness has to be properly placed. That is Krishna consciousness. And that is bhakti. One can understand that this body is matter. It can be analyzed with its 24 elements. The body is a gross manifestation, and the subtle manifestation is the mind and psychological effects, and the symptoms of life are the interactions of these features. But over and above this, there is the soul, and there is also the super soul. The soul and super soul are two. This material world is working by the conjunction of the soul and 24 material elements. One who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation as this combination of the soul and material elements, and can also see the situation of the Supreme Soul, becomes eligible for transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization, and one should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master. So we have to come to this level of making the distinction between soul, super soul, and the material body. And the material body is working by conjunction with the soul and the 24 material elements, so material nature. It's just like we see so many cars on the road, and there's a driver, there's a car. Car is just an instrument, and driver is a living entity. But we make distinction based on the car the driver is driving, how much money he has, or how rich or powerful he could be. But it's just a car. The driver must have attained that position because of his previous karma. But that situation is all temporary. So similarly, body and the soul has this body in this lifetime and is acting according to his previous desires, previous karma. And after this lifetime, he'll have another body. He'll be transferred into another body, and then he'll act again. So this is what Prabhupada is saying. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization. And one should have a complete understanding of this chapter. And then one can make real progress. So anyway, I'll stop here. Today we ended the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, in the purport previous to previous verse, we read mountains also have soul. So mountains फिर perish नहीं होते क्या even at the end of a kalpa also because they are so immovable. उनका कैसे होता है? Then how do the soul then migrates to another body for mountains and all?
See, in Bhagavatam it is described that in earlier ages these mountains used to fly from one point to another. And whenever they would land at any place, they would kill so many people. So Indra, by his Vajra, he cut off the wings of all these mountains so they don't fly and create havoc all around. So flying means they have the soul, that's for sure. So now, how do they change the body? That's your question. Uh, Probably of course, they live for a long time. So probably when we do this blasting and this and that, and or there's a tectonic shift in the plates of the earth. There could be different reasons. So then these die, and or maybe the soul might leave the mountain body, and the other soul can come in that body. Something like that must be happening. I don't know the details.
Plus, they get association of the sadhus, right? Spiritual sadhus who go there and do tapasya in Himalayas and all.
I don't know. They take the association, or at least they do the service. Association means then your consciousness will start changing. But at least they do the service by providing for the sadhus.
This is amazing, Guruji, how all these things that we think are actually dead stuff, they are also living things. Thank you so much for explaining, Guruji.
Thank you.
Guruji, so Giriraj Maharaj has, I mean, he is immortal then.
Giriraj came from spiritual world, and in a way, he's not different from Krishna. Of course, he's immortal, and he is reducing in his size because of separation from Krishna. And he will not die, but he will go back to the spiritual world. Like it is said that in 10,000 years of Kali Yuga, afterwards we'll not have Giriraji and Ganga and Yamuna and all the holy places. They'll all go back. So they'll just unmanifest, just disappear from here.
So, soul, Giriraj, I mean, in the time of the Leela, he is still there as it is. In
Say again?
Vrindavan. Probably the soul, I mean, the Giriraj present during the time of the Leelas is still the same as present currently.
His size has reduced. Of course, there is another pastime of Pulastya Rishi and Giriraji. Pulastya Rishi got angry with him, and he told him, "You will reduce by the size of one mustard seed every day." That happened many years ago, like another yuga. But his actual reason for shrinking in size is because of separation from Krishna. Did I answer your question?
Yes, Guruji.
Okay. But he's there in his how it is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. But when Krishna would perform his pastimes on Giriraji has like waterfalls and tunnel and caves and the gardens are there. So many things like described in like Garg Samhita and other scriptures. So Giriraji in his original form is huge. It's very, very big. Because he wants to provide all the places for Krishna and Radharani and gopis and gopsakhas to have the wonderful pastimes every day. Krishna goes to Giriraji every day. After performing his pastime in Nandagaon in the morning, then towards mid of the day, he's there at Giriraji. And they really enjoy. Because Giraji provides all these places for Krishna to perform his pastimes. And then towards the end of the day, Krishna comes back to Nandagaon, and at night he meets gopis at Yamunaji, at the banks of Yamuna. So that's why Giraji is very important. Plays wonderful role in Krishna's pastimes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
And Prabhuji, last week you also explained to us that Girraji, Yamunaji, and Brajaraj are the three original things still present.
Yeah. Yep. So another 9,500 years.
We are lucky, Prabhuji, to be born and actually take darshan and blessings from Girraji then.
Yeah. Yeah. So we should do parikrama more often.
Prabhuji, missing your company.
By Giraji's mercy, we'll have the association again soon.
Hari Bol, Prabhuji, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
ठीक है, so I guess we can stop here. So you all have a wonderful day. Enjoy your conjuncals and Ram Navami. So tomorrow we'll have Ram Katha. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Jai Srila Prabhupada.